Per usual, living on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. It's Teaching Tech Tuesday on this bloody Tuesday for prices. We've taken a look at multi-month cycle Bitcoin and ETH targets. I thought it would be fair to do that for Solana as well. One thing I think many Bitcoin maxis get wrong, of which I would call myself, but what they get wrong is they sort of ignore everything else. You know, if I'm of X religion, I would probably appreciate understanding the nuances and differences of all the other religions versus just staying in my hidey hole focused on my dogma, because I think that would help you appreciate what you have even more. It would help you understand why things are the way they are for Bitcoin, and would certainly probably help you size appropriately for a cycle and feel comfortable about it. As someone who's been here and seen this list, this market cap list, change over a decade from all sorts of junk to all sorts of new junk, it definitely helps to know a little bit about all the other chains and what your competition is. ETH number 2 market cap not going anywhere. BNB has all sorts of issues. It is a token that's affiliated with an exchange that is certainly on the SEC alleged security list. Solana is as well. I'll get to that in a second. But it is getting arguably more decentralized, or it got more decentralized with the breakaway from FTX. Solana probably wouldn't be where it is today without SBF, without FTX in the early years being a backer and pushing it, right? It survived the asteroid, right? that was FTX, and has emerged as what the market is looking for in gambling, casino, high throughput, low cost, simplicity, right? Nobody really cares about decentralization. I'll talk about that at the end. That doesn't matter until it matters, which is one of the reasons why most Bitcoiners focus only on Bitcoin, because everything else is many degrees of centralization more than BTC for various reasons. Pre-mine, proof of stake, nodes, Infura, uptime. You know, you can just go down the list. It's very hard to compete with Bitcoin on the decentralization piece. Bitcoin's weakness might be mining pools, which is often touted, but the argument against mining pool centralization is just miners can go wherever they want. They're not locked into some staking protocol. They can switch on a whim. So past Sol, it's, you know, in between this, it's stable coins, it's staked ETH. Okay, great. This stuff really shouldn't be on the market cap list, if you ask me. It doesn't make sense that it's number 6. Stablecoins need to be on their own as well. They should probably be on a different type of market cap list. They should be curated a little bit. But past that, you know, Ripple shouldn't be here. It's a market cap scam. Same thing with Cardano. Sorry, Cardano people. And then you've got a couple meme coins and Telegram coin. So unless any of these others are going to outcompete the casino, which BNB did in the last cycle, it outcompeted ETH because it was cheaper and faster. And that's why it saw a bunch of people in retail gravitate towards that as ETH got unsustainably expensive. ETH's latest game is just switching around the monetary policy until they figure out something that sticks. So I don't even need to look at like daily active users, daily active addresses. I don't really care about any of that. I think we all know who's using which chains here. We all know that there's a lot of ETH maxis who can't wait for the ETF. There's a lot of Sol people who are trading meme coins in their casino. And then there are a lot of Bitcoin people who are going to be here for a very long time. Everything else is just kind of whatever. You know, Tron exists to serve Tether and get people to transact on Tether. Anyway, this is a technical video, so we'll focus on that. But part of the reason why Sol is seeing the volume it's seeing is because people are actually using it and they're using the chain. Is what they're using the chain for what you care about, dear user and listener? I don't know, but people are using it, right? First thing you always do when you see a bear market recovery is to measure the Fibs, the Fib extension, from high to low. Use the wicks, don't use the wicks, I don't care. This is just to give you some idea of what's going on. We're on an extremely high time frame, so I use the wicks, why not? And this gives us an absurd target, right? And that's okay. 1,500 to 5,000, sure. Write it down. Put it on the vision board behind you if you're a Sol maxi. This would be the new all-time high cycle bullish continuation target in 18 to 24 months, whatever it is, right? It's going to take rates down, liquidity up. This is the banana zone type stuff everybody seems seems to be so focused on. Yes, it's a 10x. Is Bitcoin going to 10x from here? Probably not. Not as fast as Sol might. Is ETH going to 10x as fast? Probably not. So I can see the appeal. I understand it, right? I'm a maxi who's looking around, trying to see what other people are doing. The other thing about this chart is historically it's traded very technically with patterns on the way down, on the way up. Is this a giant cup and handle? Is this going to be an inverted head and shoulders? I don't know. I don't care. All I know is the thing that matters the most is that $200 level. If we can get above that and hold that level, that likely means strong bullish continuation. We aren't there yet. We don't have the environment. You know, when we made a cake, you need specific ingredients, specific temperatures. You put it in the oven for a specific period of time, right? We don't really have the macro landscape cake for alts to just do well carte blanche automatically. That's going to take some time. So where can this fail? How bearish can this get is the other thing to think about. I don't think we go back to 40. I think we're going to have a tough time going to 80. But again, it just depends. If monetary policy is more restrictive, alts will fall. That's just how it is, right? Bitcoin down 2, alts down 20. This is just the latest target from that inverted head and shoulders, which we basically hit. Not the maximum target, but we're in the wheelhouse, depending on how you want to measure this. This was the initial inverted head and shoulders that kicked us off here. But if I'm starting with anything, I'm starting here always on every chart. We had the drawdown, we survived, basically got our retest of all-time highs and are just sort of sitting here. Before I go any further, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with the link in the description of this video. Non-investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc., PBI, DBA, Kraken. So in the low time frame, Solana has done really well so far, thus far, on the cloud. Not every breakout, not every TK recross with price above cloud is going to lead to automatic bullish continuation. This may recover here at the daily Kijun, that red line, but it's got to do that today, right? It doesn't have any time. Like, this is it for the cloud here. As I've said in the past on a lot of these charts, the easier trade is always something coming out of being fully bearish, flipping back to bullish with a massive mega pattern, right? Not only did it have that massive inverted head and shoulders, it had another inverted head and shoulders here. What I think threw a lot of people off who were less soul inclined, such as myself, is how fast and furious this reversed at a time when it was kind of unexpected, right? We saw a lot of liquidity get unlocked from reverse repos, and off she went. Off a lot of alts went. So we pulled forward a lot of that post-halving gain in the pre-halving way, and now we're trying to decide, does this have enough juice for bullish continuation now? It certainly doesn't look like it across the board. I've seen other people sort of measure this as, you know, is this a head and shoulders? And then we can fib this out, pick some midpoint, and, you know, there's your level to watch. That's one thing to do. I'd obviously watch the cloud here on low time frames. If you're looking to get back in or you're looking to add to a position, you always want to see everything flip bearish to bullish, right? That's just the easier way to trade, regardless of how this is going to look. Eventually, you know, you probably don't want to see something like this, even though BNB and Uni and a bunch of other alt charts had this over many, many months, and that actually broke up. But, you know, we don't want to draw this, because then usually this is pretty bearish. But whatever it ends up being in the near term, cloud is always my guide. Looking at the log regression type comparison. Okay, this is not a log regression, to be clear, but it's the closest we've got, probably because there's not a lot of trading data for Solana. So this is just a parallel channel. You get your high up here, your lows down here. You got a bunch of touch points down here. And again, we get similar pie in the sky, infinity targets, whatever, right? Would I bet the farm on this high at 6K, 10K right now? No, I think 500 is acceptable. I think 800 is acceptable. Think in multiples, think in duration, think by April 2025, will we see $1,000 Sol, right? Or whatever, ETH at X price, BTC at X price. That's how you got to position yourself. I'm not confident that the network isn't just going to eventually collapse on itself, but a lot of people are. It's clearly a high market cap coin. It benefits itself if it doesn't explode. And your midpoint here is, again, 800, 1,000, something else to watch for long term. We've also got a moving average multiplier. This is the 8-hour, 730 moving average, so whatever that is in days. When you're curve fitting this, you want to make sure the lows are respected, the highs are respected. And you can see how quickly we got to the top of this intra-cycle. We got to the top of the high. We didn't touch the high, but we got close. And even in 2021, we sort of rode that high, pulled back, and then retapped it again. So I would think if something like this gets back into the buy zone, that would be a very good sign. Not a lot of backtesting data to say, okay, every time it gets below this specific moving average, it's a buy. Clearly last time it took months, it took a year plus to get out of that buy zone. But we're just looking for rough estimates here, something to look for later on. You've also got this Pitchfork, which looks okay. Doesn't look horrible. Just got to pull up fairly quickly. You could probably draw this 16 different ways. Pick your favorite one. See what survives over time. This is not about right now. This is not about price today. It's about what do we think price is going to be in 6 months, in 12 months, in 18 months? What can we use today to try to project some target, assuming all goes well? I think the bigger issue is the market cap. The market cap already hit an all-time high. Admittedly, it's quote unquote low for the rest of crypto, for the rest of the coin market cap table, or whatever you want to think about that as. So sure, does it have room? Probably has room. And then we can sort of think in market cap terms. If we look at this website, 8marketcap.com, they sort of aggregate everything, legacy, crypto, commodities, that sort of thing. Solana here at 293, it's already above PayPal and Target, but one way to think about this is on a relative value metric, what would Solana eventually overtake? Like, is it worth more than Ferrari? But I guess we'll see. Is it worth more than Foxconn, Shopify? Just to get a different way to think about the future, right? Is Sol going to flip Binance, right? Is it going to flip BNB? Something to think about. You've also got this issue with FTX coins being sold to Pantera at a discount. Pantera wouldn't do that if they didn't think they could make money. I think they're already up based on the 60% discount of Solana. They raised a whole new fund. So the selling of this, whenever this is, will likely be some sort of top in the market, right? They're not going to sell it all at once. They're going to TWAP it out over weeks, months, whatever, but they're not going to hold on to their Solana bags for forever and ever, right? Everybody has a price. Everybody has risk mitigations based on their fund or whatever. So eventually they're going to end up selling that. Now, I think the bigger issue for most people currently, especially in the United States, is these alleged SEC securities that the SEC has named specifically. Depending on your viewpoint of upcoming election, you may say, well, it doesn't matter. The SEC is going to get reduced in their attacks on crypto. That could be. But this is always a fear for me. The regulatory risk. Regulatory risk is real for this stuff, right? You know, you don't want to wake up one day to a headline that says XYZ Foundation being sued by the SEC or got served a Wells notice. I just don't want to deal with that personally. That's my call, right? If you don't care about that, that's fine. If you think it doesn't matter, that's fine. Admittedly, the Wells notices have had less of an effect, but that's just something I personally don't want to deal with. Then we've got this whole decentralization argument, which if you're a Sol maxi, you're not going to care what I have to say. If you're an ETH maxi, you're not going to care what I have to say. But the number of validators matters. The cost to run a validator matters. The size of the network matters, because all of that boils down to the diversity of the validators and the actual real deal decentralization globally and between independent parties. I don't know the Solana blockchain size. I couldn't find that readily available, but I'll get to the Bitcoin and ETH comparisons in a second. You know, we can look at the validators. We can say it's mainly exchanges, it's XYZ people, whatever, fine. Kraken's on there, Coinbase again. But when we're talking about getting in a Discord with the validators, telling them to reset their blah, 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 like, you know, we are just so far down the road of decentralization, it's not even funny, you know. So that is a valid and legitimate issue and concern for most people. Again, they don't want to wake up to some headline that the blockchain's down or somebody made some mistake and whatever, right? that might have been okay in like 2014 when things were just getting started. And for Sol, it may still be okay long-term because people don't really care about decentralization. If they're in the casino, they don't care. But for a lot of people, events like that do not help the argument, hey, hold Sol. It's going to do well long-term. This is Ethereum on ethernodes.org. The nodes here, you can see a lot of them are hosted AWS, Infura. We're sort of passing the buck on to everybody else. I have a Bitcoin node sitting next to me, as do many people around the world. I don't need a service. I don't need to pay somebody to do that. I can just plug something in and it's good to go. ETH is different than that. Solana is different than that. ETH, you need almost a terabyte for a full node. And the common retort against this is, well, you don't need a full node, Josh. You can just run a partial node or whatever they call it. And that's totally fine. Okay. Again, like what level and shade of decentralization are we turning here on the knob? Like is 21 validators enough? Is 10% full nodes for the entire network? Is that enough? We don't know. I don't know. You tell me. So that's why for many people, this just breaks down. Bitcoin, by the way, is at half a terabyte thereabouts. And one of the reasons most people were anti-big block is for exactly this. People are anti-changing the consensus algorithm multiple times, anti-adding a bunch of stuff, pro-codifying the code, preventing blockchain bloat, preventing gradual centralization of the nodes because Joe Public just can't run something on a Raspberry Pi, for example. Another common retort to this is, well, because of Gresham's law and XYZ, like over time, it shouldn't matter. Okay, you can say that. Fine. Like, I get it. 1 terabyte isn't a lot, admittedly, but that depends on who you are around the world. So just something to think about in regards to Solana, right? Like Solana is a different beast entirely. Here's the node count for Bitcoin. But one of the reasons Bitcoin has done well and has continued to thrive over a decade plus is we have this rock solid foundation of what I would argue pretty good decentralization. You can see the nodes over time here. We have participation globally. We have decentralization globally. We have tons of churn in miners globally all the time. It's brutal to be a miner. It's a terrible business, okay? It's a terrible business. You're always competing against somebody with cheaper electricity or better tech. You're always competing against better geographic locations, heat, weather, humidity. And again, you can point to the mining pools and say, they're super decentralized. There's only 3 of them. Okay, well, any of those miners can switch at any time. Anytime. Can the same be said for validators on Solana? To some degree, yes. On ETH as well, to some degree. But then we're talking about staking and restaking, and it's just a different beast. So that's why for many people, they would just never hold Solana long term. They just couldn't, regardless of the targets. And a lot of people just left curve this and they say, I don't care. This will do well based on multiples relative to ETH and BTC. And that's fine. That's what makes a market. But nobody should run into any surprises as far as what to expect here on the network over the long term. The risks are definitely there for Solana. But for some, the risk reward there is worth it, right? That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.